Friday night. It's Columbus, almost. Hayden and Columbus. I'm not. We've both got drinks. It's happy hour. Let's talk about the Blue Jackets. I was going to run the title video, but I don't think I can be bothered. So we'll just jump straight into it. I'm Jay Foster. That's Hayden Heilshorn, host of Locked On Blue Jackets. We've been doing this we've done this a couple of times now, and it's usually a bit of fun. Hayden's got a Miller Lite, I assume. I've got a whiskey and Coke because I didn't have any beer, and it was the easiest thing I could make.
Nice. Yeah.
But yeah, let's get into it. How's your week been?
Oh, it's been good, man. It's been good. It's been a slow Jackets news week. Literally nothing's happened. So
I don't think there's been Jackets news since July 1st.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
I was thinking about it. I was like, have they made any kind of announcement since then? And the answer, I think, is no.
Yeah, it's been pretty brutal. And there was some light NHL news today, I guess, that we could possibly get into. But yeah, I mean, just to get a quick countdown to the days when countdown left of the days till the Blue Jackets play the Flyers opening night. We're 62 days away from actual Blue Jackets hockey.
That is very doable.
That's doable. We can do this, guys. It's getting closer. I still just can't wait. That first game is going to be so awesome. The opening night vibes are just probably second best to a playoff game. Like, there's plenty of good regular season nights, but just the opening night is when there's the most energy at Nationwide. The local radio stations, they get outside of the arena, and there's all this like fanfare around opening night that I'm just so excited about. And I think Torts being in the building, Cam Atkinson being in the building. Oh gosh, I'm just getting excited thinking about it.
Yeah,
but
it's gonna be a fun one. I have not been to a Blue Jackets opening night since I think about 2017. But they're all at the blue carpet. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, it will have been 2017 actually, because I'm pretty sure it was Pierre-Luc Dubois' rookie season. Which that turned out pretty well, and then everything else after that seems to have gone a little bit wonky. But yeah, it was fun. They got absolutely chewed up and spit out by the Bruins, but
I was there.
Beat the
I was
Flyers.
at that game.
So
I was there with you.
That's always fun. Like I'm like, I feel like the last few home openers they've had, it's been like Tampa Bay, who obviously have like had the Blue Jackets number since we terrified them in 2019, and they played the Bruins one year, and I'm sure they played the Rangers one year, and again the Blue Jackets can never seem to get a win against the Rangers. So like, who else but the Flyers? I think that's a pretty good opponent. Like you said, the narratives are really good. It's going to be Babcock versus Tortorella. It's going to be Atkinson versus the new guys. I know Atkinson has been having a lot of fun at Cap City, which I looked up the hilarious scoring stats, and I know that they're playing basically 3-on-3 and 4-on-4 with no defense. But Patrick Laine has 21 points in 3 Cap City League games, which is just so friggin' funny. Like, just truly beer league numbers. It's so funny. And I know that you haven't been to one in a couple of weeks, but you had a lot of fun when you were there.
Oh gosh, yeah, it's awesome. I mean, just getting to see these guys show off their skills when they're playing non-contact in a game format is really cool. And it's just the jerseys are really cool. Like, I think Laine's and Roslovic 614 jerseys are awesome. I just
almost bought one of those like 3 times today. I keep scrolling past the tweet that's like, they're online, and then being like, I shouldn't drop $90 on a jersey if I have to buy plane tickets out to the States in a couple of weeks. But I want one of the Miami Vice 614 jerseys real bad. They're so sick.
Real bad. Yeah, they're awesome. And I think, honestly, if you wear one of those to a Jackets game, that's awesome. That's probably up there with like one of the better jerseys you could get. I was thinking about this too because we recently did Yurchek's season review. I was watching some old tape from him. I guess not really old because he won best defenseman in the World Juniors this past World Juniors. But the Czech international jerseys might be the best hockey jerseys in international, right up there with Sweden.
They're
Like when
pretty
those
good. I actually have a weird niche answer for this. I'm kind of biased. I really like Team GB's jerseys, the blue and the red and the
oh
white
yeah,
with
it's
the line on
clean.
the front.
It's clean.
France also has pretty pretty sick jerseys in international play. I don't know if you've seen France play, but they're pretty good. But that was the fun thing about the World Cup of hockey that they did once and then decided, no, this is too much fun. We can't ever do it again. The Team Europe jerseys were really cool, and I know everyone loved the Team North America jerseys, and just I don't know, that was a really fun tournament. I had a lot of fun there, and I was like, "This is cool." I'm so excited that they're going to do it again in 4 years, and then obviously they decided, no, we couldn't possibly do that again. It's too much fun. The people had too much fun. We must only be boring.
That was strangely kind of the peak of Blue Jackets hockey in a way. I mean, obviously, I think they peaked when they swept Tampa Bay in terms of what they accomplished. But when that World Cup was going on, the Jackets had made a couple runs to the playoffs. I think they had just recently lost to the Penguins, but they had an unreal season. They had a 16-game winning streak that year. John Tortorella was named head coach of the USA team. And then they even played an exhibition game between USA and Canada in Nationwide Arena, which
I forgot about that. Yeah.
by far one of the top 5 coolest hockey games I've ever been to. You just don't get USA versus Canada going on. So for that to have happened at Nationwide, even though it was a practice game technically, and then USA ended up stinking in that tournament. But that was a very fun game. Very fun game.
Yeah, I believe it. So Team GB, Team Great Britain, they were obviously up in the top flight for a little bit. They got promoted, and then they basically couldn't win any games because they were playing against Sweden and Finland and Canada and America. And but it was really cool because I know, well, a lot of them have aged out now, but I know or have skated with a bunch of the guys that were on that national team. And, you know, you talk to them about it and they're like, yeah, it's so cool. You get to play against, Conor McDavid or whoever's playing in the World Championships. And I was talking to one guy who is really, really nice guy. Got in a lot of scraps, got in a lot of fights, but was also a really good scorer. And we were like, what are you most excited for about playing, Canada and America and everything up in the top flight? And he kind of thought about it for a second, and he's got this like big thing of tobacco in his lower lip that he's like sucking on, and he's like, I really want to fight Jamie Benn. Like that's what he wanted to do on
awesome.
the biggest international stage that he has ever played on, playing against Canada. He's like, yeah, I'd really like to fight Jamie Benn. I think that would be a lot of fun. I'm like, buddy, I would also like to see you punch Jamie Benn in the face repeatedly, but it's beside the point. But yeah, they were supposed to do a tournament, not a tournament, like an exhibition game over here with GB and Canada. But this was May 2020. So
yeah,
we had tickets, we had everything planned, we had hotels booked. We were going to make a big weekend of it. It was going to be great. And then
the
world shut down.
Yep.
So
yep, that's brutal.
It could be worse. But yeah, they ended up rescheduling it, but they didn't play Canada. They played Denmark. And in fairness, they ended up losing to Denmark like 14-2. So like I imagine the game against Canada wouldn't have gone much better. So maybe it was for the best. But
why is that? Why is GB so far behind, it feels like, in European hockey? Like, why isn't the sport caught on as well in that country, being it's in the same region-ish, same continent as, like, places like Czech and places like Sweden and Finland? Why hasn't it?
The short answer is that there's just not enough, like, there's not enough room for growth in the sport. I'm not going to get like super into the politics of everything, but basically there's 2 governing bodies for UK ice hockey. And one of them is junior hockey and recreational hockey. The other one is the professional and semi-professional hockey. So like the tiers that I think we were talking about UK hockey last time, and I explained the tiers, and there's, all the different kinds of leagues. So the problem there is these 2 governing bodies can't agree, and so there's no real like development or farm system in UK. So kids will go and they'll play up to, and they'll play the under 18s, they'll play under 20s, and then after that, there's nowhere for them to go. like there's not really like a progression system. And so you get, your guys they hit under 20s and then they can't play anywhere. The really good ones will go abroad. They'll go, to like the second tier German hockey, or obviously, probably about 5 years ago now, there was a British kid drafted into the NHL, Liam Kirk. He went in the 7th round to the Arizona Coyotes. And I mean, he's the best British-born, British-trained player that they've had in a very, very long time, probably since Tony Hand in the 80s.
That's what's so surprising to me.
For NHL hockey, but there's the two governing bodies can't agree, and so there's no growth. And so what happens is, instead of the kids going from under 20s to like turning pro, the professional leagues here are all like the top flight professional teams where you get paid to play and everything, instead of you paying to play or you volunteering basically and working a second job at the same time. They're filled with import players, so Canadians, Americans, Europeans that want to come over here who aren't good enough to play in higher leagues. So it's getting better, but until these two governing bodies like agree, like it's just not gonna work, which sucks, because
it does suck.
It's such the people here that love hockey love it in such an intense way, but then you go like 5 minutes down the road and no one knows what it is,
Yeah, no, that's wild. It's the 4 big sports there, if I had to guess, are, Association football, aka soccer, rugby. I'd say cricket's probably pretty big over there, and
it's huge.
Then basketball. I don't know where I'd go.
Not really. Honestly, like the big 4 sports over here. Golf is decent. Tennis is up there.
Yes, Wimbledon. Yeah.
But honestly, I think a lot of people here split rugby into 2. So there's rugby union and rugby league, which are 2 different sports that I don't understand, and I'm not going to pretend to know. It's kind of like how baseball is National League and American League, and there's different rules in the 2 leagues. But
they're the same now. Together. They finally agreed on.
Have they made them the same?
Yes.
Okay, but it's basically the same sport, except there are different like rules in the details.
Gotcha.
But you've got to be very careful. Like there's rugby league towns, and then there's rugby union towns, and you've got to know which one you're in if you want to talk about the rugby.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, I do wish it was bigger here. It's a great sport, this, everyone listening knows this. And it really annoys me when I see people like gatekeep the sport and are like, you can only be a fan if you know this, and this, and you can name the last 30 Stanley Cup winners in a row, like the sport rules. I want more people to enjoy this sport. Like, if you enjoy it because you think it's fun and you want to go casually, like, go ahead. If you want to do what I did and accidentally make it your entire personality, like, cool. That's awesome too. I have no time for these people that are like, no, you must only be a fan if it's been in your family for the last 4 generations. Yeah. That's crazy.
I think it's also hockey's one of those sports too where, and correct me if you feel differently on this, but I feel like there's not a lot of strategy that goes into the game. It's just, let's throw 5 dudes versus 5 dudes and, goalie on each side, and whatever happens, happens. So there's not really much strategy to talk. Like, I was just thinking about how a football team prepares in training camp leading up to the season versus how a hockey team prepares. And like an American football team is like, we got to learn all the plays.
Right.
We got to learn all the schemes.
I will say before, while we're having this conversation, everything I know about American football, I learned from Friday Night Lights. The TV show. So like not a lot, but I think hockey's definitely strategic. You learn plays, you do drills, you have systems, and that's why some teams have success and some teams don't. However, it's very, very easy in hockey to throw the plan out the window and just improvise in a way that I feel like it doesn't really work the same in American football. Like it feels a little bit more rigid in football. I feel like there's more room for chaos in hockey, which may not be true. I've seen like 5 whole minutes of one real football game, and it was in like 2017, so it doesn't count. It's not my sport. I can't get into it, but
there's just something I'm gonna get romantic about hockey for a second. When the game is played properly and it's just played kind of a little loose and a little and fast, that's when it's the best, man. And it's honestly the best in person too, which is why I think people that gatekeep the sport are so silly, because first of all, hockey can't afford to gatekeep the sport. If we want the
There's
sport
not enough
to be
of us to
around,
gatekeep.
right? Like nobody should be gatekeeping hockey in Arizona. You should need every fan possible down there. Which congratulations to Arizona, I guess, in a way, because it sounds like your owners are eyeing some land in Mesa, which is about 30 minutes east of downtown Phoenix. I don't think that's going to help you out a ton. Honestly, they may just need to just move to Quebec or something by now. I'd hate to see it happen because I love the Arizona Coyotes, but anyway, yeah, you can't be gatekeeping the sport because hockey struggles so hard to get out there, and I think a lot of the fans that do go to games are fans that go to many games.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's very often where people just buy Blue Jackets tickets one random night because they're like, I need something to do. That definitely happens, but not in the same way that it happens.
No, it's like if you go to New York, you're like, hey, let's go to a Yankees game, or if
you
you're
might
in
not
LA,
be a
you go to a
baseball fan,
Lakers
right?
game, or it's like an experience. You experience LA, and you go to a Lakers game. You experience New York, you go to a Yankees game, a Mets game, whatever. You don't like maybe a Rangers game, like you maybe experience a game in Toronto, but like for the most part, and this probably goes back to what we were talking about in terms of a hockey town that we talked about a few weeks back. What makes it a hockey town, and I guess maybe that's part of it. Is is Columbus and hockey synonymous with each other? And I don't know that it is yet. But yeah, like I don't know. People are like, I love this sport so much, but you don't love it the right way. I'm like, no, that's not how this works. Like, maybe that's just me. But the way that I enjoy things is like, I want everyone else to enjoy them as well. I love to talk about hockey. Obviously, like that's why I get paid to do it. Like
Yeah.
I love to talk about hockey, and I love to talk to other people about hockey and tell them about hockey. And I if I meet someone on the street and they're wearing like there used to be a dude that lived like down my block that used to walk around in like a George Larac Habs jersey, which ruled.
Nice.
And like, yeah, every so often I saw him, I was like, yeah, go Habs. And he like raised his fist and stuff, and it was fun. And I like I want more people to know about this sport, because then I have more people to talk about this sport with.
Yeah.
It feels silly to be like, no, you don't like it the right way, so you can't have this sport. I'm not letting you in.
That just you saying that about the Montreal Habs guy, with the walking down the street. Hey, that's I think everybody can relate to that, right? If you're wearing, if you're a hockey fan, you're obviously not listening to this podcast or tuned in right now if you're not a hockey fan. But if you see somebody else wearing any sort of NHL team logo or anything, you always are like, hey man, yeah, like I like the Bruins hat. I hate the Bruins hat, but I actually like that you like hockey. Like that's cool. Like hockey does have this kind of sense of I don't know, it's definitely the sense of community. Hockey also has just a lot of drip too. Like people will rock any sort of NHL team, especially those original six teams will get their logos will be on anything, and people might just be from that city and not even a fan of that team. Like it's very much kind of similar to baseball in that way, where people can be wearing an LA Dodgers hat. That does not mean that they're an LA Dodgers fan. They like right. LA, So
I know when I was 16, 17, maybe we went on like a family vacation to Disneyland in Florida, and my dad lost his hat on one of the roller coasters, and so we had to go get a new one. And we were staying with my godfather, who was living out there. And he just grabbed a random hat, and my godfather was like, no, don't get that one. It was a Miami Dolphins hat. And so he was like, if you get that hat, people are going to ask you about the Dolphins every single time they walk past you, and you're never going to get a moment's peace. So buy a hat that doesn't have a sports team on it, because otherwise people are going to be like, hey, how about those Dolphins? So
I do believe that everybody is entitled to wear whatever they want, and they're allowed to rep a team and not know anything about that. That does not bother me that much, because I do the exact same thing. I don't really have an NBA team that I really love, but I love like the Cleveland Cavaliers hats. Like I think their logo is so cool. So I actually recently, when I went on vacation, wore that hat around, and people were asking me about how how I felt about the Cavs draft. The Cavs draft. Like, I can talk a little ball, Jay. I can name some of the big players on the team. Darius Garland, Jared Allen. Can talk about that. I cannot tell you who the Cavs drafted. So, like, I was a sitting duck on vacation talking to this one guy. And, yeah, I just absolutely pretended like I knew what he was talking about. I was like, oh, yeah, I liked what they did. Yeah, yeah. And he was like,
no,
really?
Great job.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know.
Should we ask a question or answer a question? I guess I have a couple of fun ones.
Let's do them.
Some are kind of, one of them is relevant and one of them is kind of a more fun one. So and if you guys have questions in the that you want to throw in the chat, that we'll see if we can get to them. But my friend wants to know. She goes, this is a slightly obscure but still wildly out of touch question. Who won the Ryan Johansson trade? So the Ryan Johansson for Seth Jones trade back in the day. Obviously, neither player is with the original team. It's got to be the Blue Jackets, right? Like, I'm biased, but
I think it does have to be the Blue Jackets. I think the Predators got an extra couple of years out of Ryan Johansson because did he just sign with the Avs? I believe
They traded him to the Avs, retaining salary. So the Preds are going to be paying him $4 million, and the Avs are going to be paying him $4 million. I think for the next 2 years. I don't have Cap Friendly up right now because this is a fun stream and not a fact stream.
The only thing that bothers me with that trade is that how much the Jackets needed a center the last few years. It's just been so hard for the Blue Jackets to obviously develop and keep centers. The one that they really did develop well and tried to keep, he wanted out. Maybe that was an issue with the coach. I mean, I think it was more than that. Pierre-Luc Dubois, who
it's one of the Pierre-Luc Dubois is one of those things that's going to like not haunt me because it's not like a traumatic thing, but I am always going to want to know what went wrong. And I don't think we're ever going to find out. It's just one of those things. I do think that Ryan Johansson struggled with Tortorella, and Tortorella struggled with him, and that probably wouldn't have gotten better. So I don't know that Johansson would have stuck around anyway.
Yeah, I think Seth Jones also helped Zach Werenski early on in his career. I don't think Zach Werenski is the player that he is if he wouldn't have been Seth Jones's Robin for a little bit. I think he would have
ended up playing on a pairing with Jack Johnson, and it would have been a time.
Right.
It would have been real bad, And I love Jack Johnson, but...
And plus, Seth Jones had so many awesome moments in Columbus. I mean, game-winning overtime goals, just plays where he, practically broke his leg and came back and scored goals. Like, he's just an awesome player. He was always a great interview, just a nice, gentle giant, I mean, he's just a guy that as soon as he went to Chicago, I told Blackhawks fans, like, you're going to love this guy. He's awesome. Now, he hasn't been totally great, but he also hasn't been bad. I mean, did he just finish his second year there? Yeah, I believe he just finished his second year in Chicago. So team's going to be a whole lot better this year. I mean, they got Taylor Hall. They got Connor Bedard, obviously. I expect the Blackhawks to be a lot better. And Seth Jones is going to be a big part of that because he's only, 28, 29 years old. So he's still got a lot left in the tank.
29. I think he's a year younger than I am. So, yeah, and he was actually quite good this season. Like, if you look at the underlying fantasy stats, he was actually pretty good for a truly terrible Blackhawks team. So, like, get him a real defense partner, and then you should start seeing results, which is great for the Blackhawks because they need to get results out of Seth Jones because they're paying him $1 million, like $1 bajillion for the next
bajillion. Yeah,
bajillion. It's a technical term that. But yeah, I think if you look at what the Preds got for Ryan Johansson and what the Blue Jackets got for Seth Jones, you kind of unpick the trade. I think essentially what happened was the Blue Jackets traded Ryan Johansson and got 4 first-round picks. They got David Jiricek, they got Cole Sillinger, they got Jake Bean and Adam Boquist for Ryan Johansson.
That's true.
It's not about
You're right. If you look down the line of what happened, yes. That's pretty amazing. And it's even amazing.
Trade trees where he'll like pick a famous trade, and then if there's picks involved, you follow it down, and then sometimes the players get traded for other things, and like it's really interesting. And I would love to do something like that, but I don't think I have the attention span unless someone is there yelling at me that I need to finish it, which I feel like is probably what Steve Dangle gets. Another question. If we stay on the topic of defensemen, Pressbox Hockey wants to know if a
Yeah.
defenseman is put up by the Jackets via trade, who do you think it's going to be, and what is a piece that you'd want in return?
I think Adam Boquist or Jake Bean. Both of those guys seem like very highly tradable. Andrew Peeke is obviously a guy that we've thrown in there a lot. I don't think Andrew Peeke's film is going to look very good. I feel like Andrew Peeke is trending down, whereas Boquist and Bean are both trending up in their careers. If I had to choose between those two, I'm probably personally would like to keep Boquist, but at the same time, you might be able to flip Boquist for a first round pick. You might be able to, or maybe even a couple second round picks or something. But that would be a situation where the Jackets, I think the Jackets could do that, by the way. I think the Jackets defensive core is deep enough now that they don't need Boquist, but
they definitely don't.
I don't
need
know.
all
What say
three
you?
of those guys. Like they don't need Bean and Boquist and Peeke. I don't think, especially because they can only put two of them in the lineup every night. And personally, we talked about this this week on Locked On Blue Jackets. No. I would much rather have Jiricek and Blankenberg in the lineup than any mix of those three. I think Boquist is probably the most likely to get moved. However, I did see rumblings today that Toronto is interested in Andrew Peeke, which makes a lot of sense for Toronto. They want to get bigger and meaner. So I don't know what the return would be. I don't necessarily want a player in return because the whole point of this is the Blue Jackets have too many bodies. So I don't know what you get in return for Andrew Peeke. Like, it's Brad Treliving. You might be able to squeeze a first-round pick out of him, especially because likely with Toronto, it's going to be late in the first round. But I would be happy with a second-round pick and maybe like some nothing prospect that is probably going to be a monster forever for Andrew Peeke. Oh, you have muted yourself. Or your internet's freaking out. One of the two. Well, I guess it's just me now until Hayden fixes his internet. You're like in slow motion.
I think that'd be a good deal too. I would want at least probably second rounder for Peeke. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm. Oh shoot, I haven't meant to. If I did, still muted. Oh geez. Oh gosh, not good.
This is going great.
Hello.
Okay, he's gone.
Well,
I guess it's just me now, guys.
That's not good at all.
I am going to keep talking.
I don't really know what to do. Hello? Do you got me at all? Hold on.
Yeah, I got you now.
Kenzie! Get off the Wi-Fi.
This is going great.
Hello? Did that help at all? Anything? Okay. I just yelled at my wife to get off the Wi-Fi, and she said sorry. And I was like, it's okay. It's your house too, is what I was thinking. But I didn't tell her that. Maybe I'll tell her that later. That way she feels better. But yeah, this is going great. This is what a happy hour is supposed to look like. Once you get, later and deeper into it, it's supposed to get a little bit more sloppy. I mean, that's why it's called happy. I mean, I feel good right now. So I do have this take, though, that I was saving. And this is kind of a really old man take, but I think beer might be overrated. And for the first time in my life, I'm saying that. First time in my life. That's too early to be saying that too. I feel like I should be moving on to the Diet Cokes like when I'm in my 40s or 50s, but here I am in my 20s saying that beer is overrated because I tweeted out that I wanted to, get the happy hour going a little early before the show. That way, I came in and I was just like ready to go. But I cracked open the first beer, finished the first one, went to the fridge, opened up the fridge to grab the second one, and just ended up grabbing a bunch of chocolate. So that which is just as good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not as hydrated as I'd like to be because I ate chocolate, which I think we all can relate to. Chocolate's amazing. So the lame
I would
story
take
that I
chocolate
got.
over beer any day.
Did we want to talk a little bit about our? I saw you were mentioning possibly bringing up old Blue Jacket players. Did you want to do that? Old Blue Jacket players
Yeah,
that
so I was
we
thinking about like
just want to
bringing
yuck it up
like
about?
who's your favorite
I
niche
feel
Blue
like I'm back on the
Jacket?
delay again.
Oh god damn it.
Hello? I was gonna say I don't really know if this is a niche Blue Jacket because he was kind of popular while he was here, but an obscure Blue Jacket that maybe people don't remember from the past, and I think people will remember him. But it's Nikolai Zherdev. It's Nikolai Zherdev because he wore my favorite number growing up, 13. I just loved that number for some reason. I think I loved that it was an unlucky number, and I just felt like, even the unlucky numbers need a little love. And Nick Zherdev was just awesome. He was just awesome. He was part of that 05, 06 team that I really first started falling in love with the Jackets with. And they actually didn't have that bad of a season. They only had 74 points. But if anybody remembers, that was good for third in the Central Division back then of 5 teams, which I feel like pretty solid. I mean, the 2 teams that were ahead of them were the Detroit Red Wings, who had 124 points that season. Okay. And then the Predators had 106 points that season. So Blue Jackets played in a pretty brutal division, and they still came out in third. Zherdev had 27 goals that year. And I like Nikolai Zherdev. Johnny Gaudreau actually gives me slight flashes of him just because Johnny Gaudreau likes to play offense from where he builds up speed from maybe behind the net or in his own zone, and then he just carries it through. That's what Nikolai Zherdev loves to do. Nikolai Zherdev was the ultimate coast-to-coast guy. Like, he had so many coast-to-coast goals. It was so awesome. So, yeah, my guy's Nikolai Zherdev, who only played 6 years in the NHL, which is very hard to believe. 4 years in Columbus, a year with the Rangers, and a year with Philly. But that's my obscure Blue Jacket, Zherdev.
It's a pretty good one.
Who do you got?
Pretty good one. Mine is not nearly as obscure. I loved Scott Hartnell when he was here. I don't know if he's obscure or niche enough, but
he's niche.
He joined the team just as I was kind of getting into the team, and he brought a lot of like energy and like rat behavior. Like, he was such a stirrer, we're not allowed to say the word on air, but he liked to mix it up. He liked to annoy other people. He scored a hat trick against the Penguins one year, which I obviously loved for a lot of reasons.
Do you know why he scored a hat trick that game? Do you remember why he scored a hat trick that game? He was talking to the media afterwards, and he was like, "It's because I got new skates." So he had new skates, and he scored a hat trick, and everybody was like, "I think you should keep those skates." And he was like, "Yeah, I think I'm going to." I was at that game, by the way. That was the best night of my life because, like, Penguins fans just ate the L. 7-1 game, the final score from that game.
My all-time favorite. We've got a question in the chat that we're going to answer in a second, but one of my favorite Blue Jackets games that I was there for in person was, gosh, it would have been maybe 2017, I think, and it was Blue Jackets Penguins, and it was 1-1. Oliver Bjorkstrand scored. It got waved off because they gave the Penguins. There was some kind of weird rule thing where the Penguins took a penalty, and then Oliver Bjorkstrand scored, and then they were like, "No, that doesn't count. We're going on the power play instead." So they did that and didn't score. And it went into overtime, 1-1. Then Brandon Dubinsky scored the overtime game winner off just a beautiful feed from Cam Atkinson, like real vintage Dubinsky Atkinson chemistry. And Penguins fans, because obviously Nationwide gets packed with Penguins fans when they're in town, it drives me nuts. But they were so mad about it, just furious. It was Brandon Dubinsky that scored because they hate him, and it just gave me life. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I love that Brandon Dubinsky, by the way, is like full blown committed to being a Blue Jackets fan, like post NHL career. Like he goes to Blue Jackets games, he goes on podcasts and bash Sidney Crosby. Like I absolutely love it.
Dude knows what he's about. Yeah, I'm a big Dubinsky fan. Maybe I'll hang my Dubinsky jersey up next.
There you go.
I keep changing it out randomly and seeing if people notice. Maybe I'll put Dubinsky up there.
You're just flexing how many Jackets jerseys you have, Jay.
They're
We all know.
cursed is the thing. Like, I just want a jersey that I can wear that is not cursed and someone is actually on the team. The Fantilli jerseys are starting to land with people. And I want one real bad, but I can't do that because, again, cursed. It's like when I move to San Jose, I'm going to have to figure out what Sharks jersey I want to get to blend in with the locals, because if I get someone that I like, they're going to get, like, I really want to get a William Eklund jersey because he's one of my favorite prospects, and they will absolutely trade him because I'm super cursed. So, Austin wants to know, Austin Comstock, when we listen to coverage of the Blue Jackets, do you feel like we are underrated going into this season? Not necessarily, is my answer. I feel like they're not underrating the Blue Jackets themselves specifically. I feel like they're not looking at what the Blue Jackets have added this offseason. You know, I've seen a lot of articles of them being like, well, all they did this offseason was trade for Provorov and Severson. Well, they didn't. Obviously, they had a monster draft. Adam Fantilli is going to be joining the team. He immediately makes the team much better. They're hopefully going to have a fully healthy Patrick Laine this season, knock on wood. They're going to have a fully healthy Zach Werenski, knock on wood. Like, the defense is going to be better. Elvis will not be the worst goalie in the league this year. Like, if you get league average goaltending out of Elvis Merzlikins, like, this team is wildly different, you know? So I don't think they're underrating it. I think they're just not really looking into it, which I kind of am used to. People don't bother learning things about the Blue Jackets, which is frustrating, but it makes me annoyed that they can't get it right, but I do also feel smug that I'm like, I know things that you don't know, you know, when some national TV pundit is like, well, the Blue Jackets did this. No, they didn't. Shut up.
I will say the Jackets are being slightly underrated. It feels like it. Like we were just talking to Russ from Locked On Flyers yesterday, and he pointed out that the Blue Jackets have a smaller chance of winning the Stanley Cup than the Flyers do, which is a joke. A joke. The Blue Jackets have so much talent in their room, man, and you absolutely nailed it. If they just get league average goaltending from Elvis was out of his bag this last season. He wasn't himself. I don't know what happened to him, but if they he can be a league average goaltender, and if he can't, then Daniel Tarasov can. So I think the Blue Jackets will make a huge step this year. They obviously got a lot better at defense. They got a lot better at center, and they got a lot better coach. So pretty much all the things that the Blue Jackets needed to do to reload, and that's what Jarmo keeps calling this thing. He's never called it a rebuild. He's only called it a reload. I think the Blue Jackets have done all the things that they've needed to do. Fast-tracked, of course, by Johnny Gaudreau signing to Columbus, because we could be in purgatory right now if it weren't for him coming here. We could still be just, you know, the Jeff Blashill Red Wings. Like, we could be just in no man's land right now. So let's be thankful for that. But yes, Austin, I do think the Blue Jackets are being slightly underrated.
Yeah, I just went to check on FanDuel, just out of interest. They currently have plus 600 for the Flyers to make the playoffs, which means if you bet $10, you win 60, I believe.
Yep. 6-1 odds. Yep.
And the Blue Jackets are plus 630. So to make the not to make the playoffs, not to win the cup. Do I have? Here we go. Stanley Cup odds.
I'm not telling you guys what to do, but it is happy hour. I might be putting.
The Blue Jackets have a plus 10,000 shot of winning the Stanley Cup. The Philadelphia Flyers have a plus 13,000. So the Flyers are more likely to make the playoffs, but the Blue Jackets are more likely to win the cup.
See, that's interesting.
It's like 100 to 1 odds.
But if we're talking gambling here, putting $50 down on the Jackets to make the playoffs and getting paid $300 by the end of the season,
It's pretty sweet.
That's not bad. It feels like a 50-50 chance the Jackets make it this year. Like, I feel like they will be flirting with the playoffs.
For
On
sure.
paper, they should be, you know?
It still haunts me that I thought about putting money on them sweeping the Lightning just for a joke, and then didn't do that.
Oh, you would have been
And
rich.
then I'm still kicking myself about it, you know? Like, so this is good. Like, legitimately, I was like, oh, I'm going to do this just for the vibes, you know? I love to overcommit to a bit, and then I didn't do it. And then, well, joke's on me. So the lesson here is always overcommit to your jokes, because sometimes you might make a lot of money off them.
I got a bit that I did early in my podcasting days. If you don't mind me sharing a quick story,
please go ahead.
So in my early podcasting days, I jokingly said the Blue Jackets needed to win. They were starting to slip, and they had the Buffalo Sabres coming up, and the Buffalo Sabres were bad at the time. And I was like, if the Blue Jackets lose to the Buffalo Sabres, I will jump in Elm Creek. And it just so happens that the Blue Jackets not only lost to the Buffalo Sabres, but we had the coldest day in the state of Ohio history the next week. It was the thing known as the polar vortex. And I went swimming in Elm Creek that day because I committed to the bit. So I also like to commit to bits. I didn't make any money from doing that. I luckily didn't die. I probably should have, but I luckily didn't. So nobody blames you for committing to the bit. Overcommitting to the bit, that's also a good thing to do too.
I love to overcommit to a bit.
Yes, it's the most fun thing to do ever. It's awesome. I'm gonna commit to the bit that I think Erik Gudbranson can score 7 goals this year.
God, why are you like this?
Listen. Okay, I also thought Michael Del Zotto was gonna have 20 points the one year that he was in Columbus, and that didn't happen either.
But Michael Del Zotto can actually do offense sometimes.
Listen, okay, listen to this. I was watching, so we have a season review for Tim Burning coming up. I was watching the Blue Jackets versus Panthers game that took place early December. Blue Jackets were in Florida. Erik Gudbranson had one take to the net that was so unbelievable. He had one deke.
Oh, yeah, he just deked out of nowhere.
Yes. You kind of remember it, right? Yeah. He will pull out the nastiest dekes of all time. He will literally turn into Patrick Laine for 3 seconds. And
David Savard is really good at that as well. Do you remember he used to be really good? Once a season, he was good for an absurd deking around 2 defenders and putting it backhand top shelf. Well, once a season, and it always seemed to be against Tampa Bay. Yes. Why for a long time I joked that they only traded for him to stop him from doing that to them in the playoffs. But yeah, just sometimes defensemen the brain just blue screens, I think, and they're like, "Yep, I'm going on an adventure."
I'm going on an adventure. Oh, I love that. Yeah, David Savard had that big time goal. I think he deked Victor Hedman on way to scoring one of the goals in Game 1 in that series. But I think one of my favorite this player's going on an adventure moment of all time, by the way, that just reminded me. Do you remember when Bobrovsky was playing in the All-Star game and just decided to carry the puck out of the net, and he hit a spin move and he still had the puck, and we're like, what is this guy doing? That when a goalie comes out of the net to go on an adventure, those are my favorite. I love when goalies come out of the net. It's my favorite.
So I have a friend over here who works for a different she works in the second tier of hockey for a team that is not icing this season for various reasons that I won't get into, because we don't need more politics on UK house hockey on Locked On Blue Jackets. But she works for a different team down south, and she does the score sheet, so she marks points, penalty minutes, things like that. And what she also has is a separate notebook that she keeps, and she marks how many times the goalies go on adventures. Because one of the goalies on her team is a real Mike Smith type.
I love Mike Smith.
Sometimes he's just he'll just leave the net. She'll be looking down and then she'll look up and there'll be a scrum happening around the net and no goalie. And so she has different tiers of there's adventures, which is where he goes out to the hash marks. If he makes it all the way to the blue line, that's a quest. He's usually good for about 2 or 3 quests a season. It's very funny, especially because he's only he's 5'6", tiny goalie, but he loves to go on adventures. So
I love Mike Smith so much. I mean, I remember when Mike Smith was in Arizona and the Blue Jackets were playing the Coyotes. This was back when the Blue Jackets were making playoff runs, and they really needed to beat the Coyotes because it's like, come on, the Coyotes are on your schedule. You have to beat them. Mike Smith had like 55 saves against the Blue Jackets one night.
Yeah.
Blue Jackets ended up winning in a shootout, but that's when I fell in love with Mike Smith, and then he went to Edmonton after that, and I think he went to Calgary after that, and that's when we saw Mike Smith at his best. He just would come out of the net. He would, just play the puck. He just wanted to get a point, and I love that. That's awesome. I love when goalies come out of the net.
It's very much like the modern day Brodeur, of just I'm just gonna play the puck myself, and like
Yeah.
I always assumed that players would hate it because that's just an extra person getting behind there. But I've learned players like it when the goalie plays the puck, especially if he can play it well, because it's like having an extra defenseman, basically. It was more important like back before they introduced hybrid icing. Back when icing was whoever touches the puck first, and so you'd get two players just steamrolling each other into the glass, trying to decapitate the other one. And if the goalie's back there, then you can't do that. But I do love when a goalie goes on an adventure, but I do also want to yell, "Stay in your home" at him. I don't like to go on adventures personally. I am not a very graceful skater when I'm doing goalieing. So I stay in my little blue crease because it's not safe out there. So
you're the only player that has your own area marked on the ice for you to stay.
Yeah, it's mine. You can't come in here. It's mine. Yes. It's safe. The skaters can't come in.
Elvis is getting a little adventurous from time to time. We need that era of Elvis where all he wanted to do was get an empty net goal.
Yes.
If we can get back to that Elvis, I will be so much happier because I love this guy. I love Elvis Merzlikins. He plays hockey with so much passion, and it's not like the crappy passion like Jordan Binnington. He's a guy that plays with passion, but he's just annoying sometimes.
A whiny baby, yeah.
He's a whiny baby. Elvis is like, he gets so mad at himself, and he's like, dang it. Like, I love that. I love a guy that gets mad at himself, not at other people. He's getting a little bit more adventurous, but also Elvis, I need you to stay in your crease in the big moments because sometimes he just will jump across the crease. And I'm like, that wasn't the move, dog.
Yeah, it's from my understanding anyway, it's a confidence thing. Mm-hmm. Confident goalies don't move as much as overconfident goalies or underconfident goalies. If a goalie is struggling, if a goalie is stressed, they're more likely to overreact to things, and they're more likely to do, the lunges and the scorpion saves and stuff. And that's what bothers me is this is my like really niche hockey complaint is when a goalie makes like this huge big windmill butterfly flashy save, and everyone's like, "Oh, what an amazing save!" No, he was out of position.
Yeah, he was lucky.
The good saves are the ones that you don't think are impressive because they don't move. Like the saves where they just hit them in the logo. Those are the good saves because they were in the right place. And I don't know. This is a thing that probably bothers like 5% of people who watch hockey, but it bothers me when they look and I'm like, no, the goalie's just out of position and making a desperation move. Like, that's not a good save. Is it impressive? Maybe, but it's not technically good.
I'm very excited to get to the goalie reviews. I mean, we're so close to finishing up defensemen. I think all we have left is Tim Berni. I want to say he's
Tim Berni. We have to do Stanislav Svozil because we accidentally talked about David Jiricek for too long. So we have to give Stanislav Svozil his own episode. But in our defense, David Jiricek is really exciting to talk about. So
he is
2 more defense
extremely exciting to talk about.
Goalies.
Even the Russ from Locked On Flyers yesterday was like, that guy, David Jiricek, yeah, you should be playing him. And we're like, he was also a big Strothman guy from the Youngstown Phantoms, who I believe the Jackets got in the fifth or sixth round. Fourth round this year. Yeah. Yes. So
he was the first 4th round pick, and then Luca Pinelli was later on in the 4th round. So
which Strothman, if I can remember from watching some of his film, really, really good on offense. Like, he has a really, really good one-timer. He has Andrew Strothman. If you look up if you get on YouTube right now and look up Andrew Strothman, you are going to find some really impressive offensive skill from him. So He's just a little
Just need
undersized,
to
I believe.
loosen up the defense on him. Sometimes he
Yes.
goes like full send sometimes, and just
Too many
he does
adventures.
the Eric Branson, David Savard. I'm just gonna go on an adventure thing, but he does it too often, I think, at the expense of his defense. But yeah, no, Russ is great. Russ knows his prospects more than a lot of other people on the network. He's always a really good, like if he likes a prospect, generally it's a good thing. But yeah, he's a big Jiricek fan. He was extremely frustrated, I think, when the Flyers took Cutter Gauthier instead of David Jiricek in the draft. I personally was thrilled. Obviously, we've talked about this. I had David Jiricek second on my entire board. The only player that I had ranked above him was Shane Wright. But yeah, it's gonna be. I'm excited to get to the goalies. I have a lot of things to say about goalies. I always do, but especially looking at the goalies that we have. I thought about jokingly putting a Jonathan Quick season review on the list of things to do, despite the fact that he was a Blue Jacket for about 36 hours, just because I thought it might be fun. I thought it'd be funny. And again, love to overcommit to a bit.
He was just so bad this past year for the Kings. It was really tough to watch.
He's
I think
old now. So
yeah, the early December game when the Kings came to Nationwide, the Jackets beat the Kings like 6-5, and
is that
they
the one that Jack Roslovic just had like a 4-point game out of nowhere?
Yeah. Yes, he did. He
I
did.
just decided to have, I was like, oh well, there's Jack Roslovic's big game for the year.
Yeah. Yeah. Jack Roslovic is such an interesting player to me because I think he is like top 3 in terms of like hockey skill, but also he's missing something. There's definitely something that he's missing in his game. But for anybody that has had the chance to go watch Jack Roslovic play in the elite Cap City Elite League, that dude's like the best player on the ice. Like he absolutely thrives in those situations. I don't know what it is, but
I think
maybe
probably it's that he's having fun.
Yes. Yes.
Which it'll be interesting to see. I don't know how much fun hockey is going to be this season
under Mike Babcock.
Under Mike Babcock, I feel like I don't get the feeling that that dude's big on fun, you know. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, Jack Roslovic, I feel like is a guy that caves under pressure a lot, which is why I think moving him down in the lineup is going to be a good thing for him. I think you give him less responsibility and give him a little more freedom to not have to go up against top 6 opposition. I think you'll probably get a better Jack Roslovic, but we'll see. It is coming on for an hour, so we should probably wrap this up soon. I'll give it a couple more minutes if anyone has any other questions to throw in the chat for us. But otherwise, what are we going to talk about next week, Hayden?
Troy had a pretty funny comment. He said, if the Islanders make the playoffs this season, I will reapproach how I analyze hockey. That's pretty funny. I mean, Varlamov is the only reason they can make the playoffs. Like that's he's not there.
No, Ilya Sorokin is
who is their goalie? Sorokin. Ilya Sorokin.
Yeah. Varlamov is fine, but the Islanders, they have Matt Barzal and Bo Horvat, who's fine, not. Everyone wanted the Blue Jackets to trade for Bo Horvat back at that time, and I was like, no, why? He's fine, but he's also on the wrong side of 27, and he's gonna want more money, and also we have too many wingers anyway.
Blue Jackets fans are the exact opposite as Leafs fans. Leafs fans will they think Connor McDavid's going to their team. They think Sidney Crosby's going to their team. They think Cale Makar's going to their team. Blue Jackets fans, we'll be cool with Nick Schmaltz. If we just somehow got Nick Schmaltz, we'd be like, this is awesome. When really it should be the opposite. We should be the ones that are like, no, we want Austin Matthews. Leafs, you give us
We need more Columbus-born players. Do you think Connor Murphy comes to the Blue Jackets at some point? He's the only other Ohio-born player in the league right now, I think, that is not.
Nedeljkovic, the goalie, he's floating around out there somewhere.
Yeah. Palmer, Ohio native.
Yes.
Nedeljkovic. I actually considered if the Blue Jackets might pick him up as a cheap backup option. I don't know where he is at the minute.
I want to say Detroit. I kind of want to say Detroit.
I don't know.
Yeah. He had a really good one season with the Carolina Hurricanes, and then he didn't have a good tenure with the Wings so far. So that just goes to also
fairness. Oh, there he is.
just goes to show you just like how hard it is to play goalie if you don't have a
He went to the
complete team in
Penguins.
front of you.
So he'll
He's
probably
with
be
the
great
Peng-
this season.
I hope he has a
Friggin' Penguins.
terrible year. No, screw that guy. I'm over him now. He's gone to all the teams I pretty much like have rivalries with right now. I mean, the Carolina Hurricanes, now the Penguins. Like, what's going on, man?
Maybe this dude just hates Ohio. Like,
yeah. Well, it's funny when he first played. I was at the game when he was playing for the Carolina Hurricanes, and I was like, "Who is this guy? Like, this guy is like." Where some European dude, and like he's literally
from down the block,
Ohio.
down the road, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, that is crazy. When I looked it up, I was like, that's wild. But Cleveland does have a lot of crazy names that come out of that area. A lot of like oh gosh, I'm forgetting the UFC fighter, Stipe Miocic.
Is he?
Yes, he's from Cleveland.
Ohio.
He's from Cleveland. Yes.
God, that's so funny. I didn't know that. Again, I assumed that he was like Slovakian or something.
Exactly. Like there's just I don't know. I mean, it's just the melting pot that is the United States. Don't.
Well, it's like you get the opposite of that as well. If you get players that like their dads played somewhere, it's like Brad Lambert is Finnish. Just a Finnish guy named Brad. My favorite thing. And there was a goalie at Blue Jackets camp, at the development camp. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he had like a really stereotypical American name, and he was like, I think, adopted and raised in America from the age of like 1 or 2, but he was born in Novokuznetskov, which is where Bobrovsky is from, and Daniil Tarasov as well. So
I love it. That's wild.
There you go. Yeah, Matt Brown is from Columbus. Stipe Miocic is from Cleveland. UFC legends. We also can't wait for Voronkov, Troy. He's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's having.
Give me that all Russian line of Chinikov, Voronkov, Marchenko. That's what I want.
Whew. And we could throw Provorov on D. And we don't have. Do we have another Russian defenseman? I don't think we do, off the top of my head.
No, I don't think so. Not even in the pipeline.
Yeah,
it's upsetting. I know. I was joking that we need to pick up. I didn't get a chance to bring this up with Gavin when we interviewed him the other day, but I really want us to do like an all Michigan lineup at some point. So
that's
Brindley, Fantilli, Johnson, and then we've got Werenski, Blankenberg on D, and then we need to pick up a goalie from Michigan. So like, I don't know if LA will give us Eric Portillo, maybe, but that would make me extremely, extremely happy.
Yes, that would also make me extremely happy.
TC mentioned it. Almost every CBJ season preview I've seen forgets about Voronkov coming over, so that's another player that they're adding. And we forgot to mention Texier as well. So
yeah,
look at the Blue Jackets as if they've only added 2 defensemen, and they haven't. They've basically added 4 defensemen if you include Werenski and Bean. They're adding Fantilli, they're adding Voronkov. Texier, I think, could be a really solid depth piece. I don't think he's ever going to be that top 6 player that we thought he might be, but he can play center, he can play wing. He's got a little bit of snarl to him. So I think if the Blue Jackets are rolling, I think Texier is going to roll as well. So I think he's going to be a fun piece to play with. But yes, I completely agree that CBJ season previews just don't seem to. At some point, we're going to finish our season reviews and start our season previews basically immediately, I feel like. I feel like I spent all summer talking about last season.
I'm going to be... Yeah, I mean, you can throw me in the category of forgot about Voronkov, because I do. I just forget about these guys. I also forgot about Marchenko. Like, I don't consider... So I thought about Marchenko until we got him in Columbus. Like, sometimes I just forget about these Russians until we see them play. And they all just come over and they end up being so solid. I don't know if the KHL just gets him ready. In fact, Chinikov really is the only one that hasn't fully, I think, spread his wings in the NHL yet. But I still think he's got some room to grow. Remember, he's made me, accidentally almost commit domestic violence on my wife a couple times because he's so good. Like, I'll be like, babe, did you see that? That's Chinikov right there. He's awesome. So, yeah, we need to get an all Russian line, an all Michigan line. That would be awesome.
Yeah. That's the plan. Get on this, Yamo. We need another Russian defenseman, and we need a goalie that played at Michigan. Strauss Mann is the only other one that I can think of. He played for the Barracuda this season. He's with Montreal now, I think. So So no one that's going to move the needle. But I just think it would be funny if that. Yeah, Troy's got a really good point. Most prospects play versus kids their age. Russian prospects play versus men, which is kind of the same for most European leagues, or like the high-end prospects will play men's, so like top Swedish league and in the Liga, and a lot of Russian prospects will go through. I always get this mixed up. I believe it's the MHL is the junior league over there, and then there's the VHL, which is like the AHL for Russia, and then obviously there's the KHL. So a lot of Russian prospects will do junior hockey, and then they'll go to the VHL, which is basically the AHL, and then they'll make the jump up to the KHL. So even if they're not playing in the KHL, they are still playing against men versus your average Canadian kid who plays against other Canadian kids, other 20 years old at most, and then like college hockey goes up to what, 23, 24 at most. So yeah, Russians, also the good ones in Russia play a lot as well. Like it's very rare that you see a Russian come over and succeed that isn't playing in the KHL, because Russia just develops
just so funny really too. They're always just so funny. Like whenever they let loose, like Nikita Kucherov after he won Cup number 2. I was just watching that press conference recently. My buddy was texting me about Nikita Kucherov for some reason. It's not worth even explaining. And I just instantly thought of that video. The only good thing that I enjoyed about Tampa Bay winning 2 cups was Nikita Kucherov just drunkenly sitting there at the podium being like, let's go, bring me the questions. Let's go. I need to get back to drinking beer.
Yeah, he's got beer to drink, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I am also super interested. It's kind of on. I think this is going to be the last point because it is. It's midnight here, so we're gonna wrap up real soon. Kind of disappointing that we didn't see Bedard playing in the IHF Championship versus men. We only saw him in World Juniors. I super agree. I would have been really interested to see Bedard play against grown men before he hits the NHL. I think he's going to be fine. But I'm interested in what his adjustment period is going to be like, because we really have only seen him play against other 17, 18, 19-year-olds.
He's going to get a lot of attention on the ice from opposing teams. So it's going to be, and he's undersized, so it's going to be a rough transition, I think, for him. I think Fantilli will have a better rookie season. I think Bedard will probably have a better career. But yeah, I think Fantilli, I'm really excited to see Fantilli this year.
Yeah, my guess is Bedard gets 50 to 60 points, which is very respectable. But I see a
very respectable. Yeah,
like he's going to be a point per game easily, and like he doesn't. Who's he going to play with?
Yeah,
Taylor Hall and some guy. Like
yeah,
those are probably his line mates.
Yeah, it's not going to be great. I think David Jiricek could win the Calder. I think they're due to give it to a defenseman. I think. Watch out for Jiricek. Just watch out for him.
We looked this up the other day, and then I immediately forgot. The last defenseman to win the Calder,
Cale Makar.
Was Cale Makar.
Yeah, which was like 3 years ago. So, and they like to give them. They like to give them to defensemen. They don't just discriminate. And I think out of the forwards options, yeah, we'll see.
So many options at forward. Like
there is a lot.
Yeah, Lucas Reichel maybe, but again, he's kind of young still as well. So we'll see. Chicago might surprise people, but I don't think Bedard is going to be the immediate dominant force that a lot of people think he's going to be. Fantilli is an option for Calder. Logan Cooley is a kind of I always think he's like a sleeper option for the Calder. Shane Wright, if he makes the NHL, which I don't know what Seattle's doing, but we'll see. There's a lot of options. For
Leo Carlson, I'm sure he'll get some time. He might not.
Yeah, if he ends up staying. Also, I lied. The most recent guy to win the Calder was Moritz Seider, who won not last year.
No.
The year before.
Yeah, that's a defenseman. Yeah, never mind.
So he won the year before. So he won in 2021-22. Cale Makar won in 2019-20. And then before that, it was Aaron Ekblad in 2014-15. Devon Levi is a solid bet for Calder. I would love if a goalie won the Calder. I don't think Daniil Tarasov is eligible for the Calder, unfortunately. But that would be a real fun.
Much.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. Which Elvis got snubbed that first year.
Yes, he just didn't play enough games, I think.
Yeah. He got second though in the voting, I thought. Behind, I can't remember who he would have lost to, but he had a good year.
That would have been
Moritz Seider.
That would have been 2019-20. That would have been the Cale Makar year.
Oh, Cale Makar. Okay, maybe he didn't get stubbed.
No, he definitely didn't get
snubbed, but you know,
he didn't get second place. I'm gonna see if I can find the Calder finalists for that, and then that will be what we finish on, because I got very sleepy all of a sudden. Because I assume everyone in the chat knows this, but I am in England. So
I like this guy TC here. I like what he said. He said he wants the players to succeed, but he wants the Chicago Blackhawks to crash and burn or move somewhere else. Correct. Well, that's not going to happen because let's be honest.
Oh, it's Original Six. That franchise is going to be there until the heat death of the universe, but
they already have crashed and burned. But like the NHL, for some reason, needs them to be good, so they're just going to constantly do whatever it takes to make sure that they stay relevant.
Yeah,
which is annoying.
I genuinely don't think the lottery was rigged. I do think that they should have had that pick taken away from them for the whole host of reasons, but we can't get into that because otherwise I'll still be here at 1 a.m. The finalists for 2019-20: Quinn Hughes for the Canucks, Cale Makar for the Avalanche, and Dominic Kubalik for the Blackhawks, who certainly is a guy. I love Quinn Hughes, by the way.
I do too.
If I had to pick a defenseman to put on the team, I might take Quinn Hughes.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's so underrated. I like him a lot.
He's awesome. I didn't realize that his rookie year was the same year as Elvis. That's crazy. But I love that video of Quinn Hughes, by the way, when he was with Keith Yandel. Keith Yandel's wearing a caddy uniform for some reason, and Keith Yandel puts down a fake golf ball that blows up when you hit it.
Oh, yeah.
And Quinn Hughes thought that he blew up that golf ball. He was like, I mean, that was like one of the most things you've ever seen, right? Like that has to win the longest drive challenge.
Yeah.
Keith plays it off so well. Keith is like, yeah, that's wild, man.
Yeah,
I don't know how you. Yeah,
I've forgotten about that. That's so good.
It was just it just happened. It was awesome.
We're gonna finish on this, which is that story reminded me of all of the videos I saw this weekend of Johnny Gaudreau on Brady Tkachuk's shoulders at whose wedding was it? Was it Dylan Larkin's wedding? Maybe.
Oh, I
don't remember whose wedding it was, but Johnny Gaudreau just on Brady Tkachuk's shoulders, dancing, and that's the second time that he's climbed on someone's shoulders to dance at a wedding.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, let's go.
We're gonna finish it there for the night. We will do this again in a couple of weeks. I don't know what date is, but the end of August sometime. I'm still having a ton of fun at Kevin Hayes' wedding. Thank you. Yes, I knew that it was one of them, because they both had their weddings the same weekend, because hockey players can only have weddings every 3 months. There's that one period of 3 months when no one is playing and everyone can go to weddings. But we'll do this again in a couple of weeks. I'm having a lot of fun with them. Hayden's having a lot of fun with them. Hopefully you guys are as well. We will be back on Monday with an actual episode. We are going to be talking about what are we going to be talking about? Oh, we are going to be talking about who we think is the biggest X factor for this team. So Hayden's going to come up with one. I'm going to come up with one. We're going to debate, and we'll see who comes out on top for who's going to be the biggest X factor for the Blue Jackets this season. Thank you guys for hanging out. We will see you again in a couple of weeks, and you'll see us hopefully on Monday.